Welcome to Rise and Realign Conversations for the Sensitive Soul. I'm Melissa, and this space is for those of us who feel deeply, love fiercely, and sense the world in ways that are hard to explain but impossible to ignore. Here, we honor your sensitivity as a strength, not something to fix. So I'm just going to briefly touch on the highly sensitive series blog that I've been referencing. Um, you can certainly read it at your leisure on my website, realignwithmelissa.com. But this is in the body part 5, navigating your body's signals and needs. And this again, it just speaks to your body's reaction to stress being more intense and nuanced than others might experience. So again, why we need to understand what it means to be someone with this high sensitivity trait, right? Because whether it's emotional, physical, or environmental, your nervous system, your unique design responds with a cascade of reactions. We're talking your nervous system, stress hormones, your digestion, and your recovery time. That's often longer than others might need. And again, that's something that sometimes we may wonder, like, why am I not over this yet, right? Like, this is that depth of processing. So this isn't a design flaw, right? Like, this is a very sophisticated way for your body to process information. Um, and again, you always have Dr. Elaine Aron's research. If you enjoy reading, um, and this particular blog, I do cite some research from 2012 that you can look into if you so choose. But I also want to talk more specifically um, because, what does it mean to be a highly sensitive person, right? Some people are well aware of, being an HSP, and but it doesn't mean that we all understand the complexities within being a highly sensitive person, because even the 20 to 30% of us who have this high sensitivity trait, we are all so very unique, right? I mean, I see it just in myself and my family, whether that's my family of origin or, with my children. And I see it with, the clients that I work with. So just discovering how it's helpful and supportive for you is what really matters most, because again, the way our high sensitivity shows up is unique to each of us. And where our areas of focus or even challenges are, right, are specific to each of us and our own very unique journeys. So connecting with our body, though, is really important because, many of us don't understand that stress response. Many do not yet know, the sympathetic and parasympathetic, and why being sympathetic dominant, right, in that fight or flight, um, chronic state is so unhealthy for us, right? I mean, it is absolutely increasing inflammation in our body, and um, it, the mind body connection is, again, there's no separating it. So we need to work with the wholeness of who we are so that we can be able to relax, so we can recognize the pattern that's even there. You've probably heard me say I was a very high-strung individual, and I just thought that was my nature, right? I didn't recognize that that was actually dysregulating to not only my nervous system, my gut health, right? Increasing the inflammation and having an autoimmune condition like Hashimoto's, right? Like these are really important things to understand, but I didn't always know. And so I'm very passionate about raising awareness because I feel that we all deserve to live healthy, happy, and harmonious lives, right? Like riding the ebb and flow of how life goes, but again, with as much peace and harmony as we possibly can. And of course, surrounded by love. um, but what I really wanted to talk to is that some of the sensitive individuals, um, may call themselves, well, I'm an introvert, and they may not understand that they're actually a highly sensitive individual, and that's okay. I mean, there's great work out there um, on introversion, and oftentimes it's speaking to those who are actually highly sensitive, and again, that's a certain part of um, highly sensitive individuals, right? 70% of us are introverts, where 30% are extroverts. What I have found is that I myself, I consider myself an extroverted introvert, right? Like I'm somebody who loves my alone time so that I can tend to my own needs. And I'm also someone who feels very energized when I'm around those who I resonate with, right? Like the same, we'll call it vibe, right? Like I'm very extroverted, and being in leadership roles, that makes it really easy, right? Um, so I really want you to understand that if you are a highly sensitive person, it's not a specific label, right, that minimizes your identity. Like it's important to me that if you recognize that you have this depth of processing, right, where you're taking in more stimuli, you're processing it more deeply, you have that more felt sense of, you know, the interoceptive awareness on the inside and then the external, right, that sensory intelligence, that's something to nurture. That's something to begin to understand so that you can keep yourself healthy, right? You can recognize earlier signals. Um, and then I've talked about, the really um, artistic sensitives, right? Like we've got so much beauty in the art world, right? That comes from sensitive individuals because they can see so much more detail. They can create so much more from this depth of processing, right? So I really want to help shine a light on the beauty of being a highly sensitive individual. And it's very intricate layers of how our sensitivity can express, right? I do call it a gift, even though I am very aware that it creates challenges for some as they're navigating, the ups and downs of life. And if they've had childhoods that were challenging and not as supportive as they needed, right? Like that's a process and we can't rush that process. But I definitely want you to know that as a sensitive individual, you're not alone. And, there are evolutionary reasons why some of us have this more finely tuned, nervous system, why our neuroanatomy is just a little bit different, right? So that we have this capacity to have a higher awareness, to access an intelligence, right? To access this spiritual realm. And again, it's just unique for each of us. But again, just helping those who have been curious, like, geez, why do I react, this way? Or why do I cry this often or so easily, right? Like, this is just a way to understand what can happen for those with this trait. And there's also, something that I found really helpful. You've probably heard me talk about the human design system, which is a way to just see again other nuances of how we might be experiencing life, and just gives another perspective as to why, we might be living the experiences that we are. Um, but for me, I've noticed that, I don't know, I see it like sensitivity with a spark, you know, like there's this, the sensitivity is again, it's that felt sense, both subtly and, you know, like your heart, your soul is just guiding you in ways that may sometimes feel confusing and you may doubt yourself, right? Like, you still have, of course, the sensitive nervous system, but there's also this deep desire for meaning, for understanding, to be with others who resonate with you and your experiences. Like, aha, yes, I'm really not alone, and I find like that comes through a lot in the women that I work with in our one-to-one sessions, and also in our group sessions, because, women who are, we'll say, highly capable, right? Self-sufficient leaders in their families, in their career, whether it's entrepreneurs, right? Or in the health and wellness field, or corporations, right? Like, the point is as a highly sensitive woman, you have this enormous capacity. And what I see is that sometimes that high capacity means you take on more than your nervous system, right? That your overall wellness can tolerate. And that's where inflammation can increase in our body, right? That's where we may start experiencing that digestive um, upset, right? That's where the stress hormones, right? And that stress response becomes more chronic. And that's not a healthy state for anyone, right? But especially highly sensitive individuals. So, I used to be a high strung individual. Like, I just thought that was normal. I thought that, well, I need to stay on top of things, right? Like, I can't let anything slip out of my reach. I need to stay on top of my career. I need to stay on top of my home, my finances, my marriage, right? And then when kids came along, okay, I need to stay on top of all of their needs, and right? And we become these super women who are juggling way more than is actually healthy for us. And so, what is unhealthy with that chronic stress response just becomes that abnormal yet normal for us, because it just becomes what we're living in, this chronic, bracing, this chronic, a, a type of hypervigilance, right? Like, always ready to jump. What's needed? What do I need to do next? And again, I find that it's with certain types of sensitive women, right? Like, it's the ones that have this, again, I call it spark, but what I feel like for myself was just my heart, my soul would just kind of call me towards something, So I would just take these courageous leaps, right? Or I would just, again, follow my heart, follow my dreams, even though I had no idea how that was going to work out. And guess what? When we are a sensitive, empathic woman, right? When we're taking those courageous leaps, our nervous system is still reacting, right? So over time, that chronic stress just builds and builds and builds because it needs time, right? Like we need to tend to our nervous system. We need to be connecting with nature. We need to connect with our breathing, our body. We need to be able to move into parasympathetic, that rest and digest. Just relax, right? Be yourself, not on, right? Not ready to jump into action mode, but this is me time and not, with a glass of wine or, a substance. No, this is just you getting yourself, into that calm and spaciousness. Now, I realize that that's not the easiest thing to do. Again, I speak from my own lived path, right? So, as someone who was very high strung, I did find it difficult to connect with my body, to slow down. My attendance at yoga had dropped off by the time I think I became a mom. Like there was just so much going on. It just didn't fit in, you know? And so I really want to again just remind you that there's nothing wrong with being a highly sensitive woman. It's a very nuanced gift, right? I mean, the ability to see more beauty and experience deeper awe and love and appreciation, right? But there's also that other side of, and we need to tend to ourself, right? We need to be able to slow down. And so I'm speaking each week in a calm tone mostly, right? Occasionally my passion will kick up and I might talk a little faster because I'm definitely excited about life and have passion and that's something that I notice in the women that do come to work with me, right? Is they also have this passion within them, this courageousness within them, whether it's moving across the country, whether it's realizing that the relationship that they're in is no longer aligned with who and what they, are feeling and living and wanting in a relationship. And it takes courage, right? It takes that fire, that spark within your heart to say, I choose me. I choose to go where I'm guided to go, where my heart is calling me forward, right? And so I just really want to honor these women who I can recognize is also who I've been, right? Like I moved across the country when I was 18. I, um, I moved across the country again when I was, I think, 40. Um, so again, taking aligned action is what I call it, right? When you're aligned and true to yourself and your heart, you make these courageous leaps. And that's not always easy to navigate. It certainly was very challenging for me. And I, you know, reached out to the communities that I felt resonated for me, I felt was the right vibe for me. But it didn't always line up. And, that's part of the journey, right? Sometimes we do need to navigate alone. And I found that that was helpful at times. But again, whether you are choosing to walk your path um, without any additional support from another sensitive woman, right? Like, I just want you to know that you're not alone. Whether you feel like you are walking clearly, and you are navigating and tending to yourself, you know awesome, that's beautiful. Because again, I know that as a highly sensitive woman, you're capable, right? Like, you are high functioning, you are deeply caring and loving, and you show up and give it your all. And I also want to remind you that you're also very worthy and deserving of receiving support, when it would be helpful, whether that's support in slowing down your breathing, whether that's connecting with your body and starting to understand it um, in a deeper way, whether you are facing some challenges in your health because of this chronic stress, right? Or whether, you are navigating away from a relationship or towards some new direction, we'll say. That can feel scary, no matter how high functioning and capable we are. I know for me, I had an experience recently. I was alone. My son was visiting elsewhere. And I just remember feeling alone and, momentarily startled. And I've walked this path for a long time. So I know how to, realign very quickly, but I didn't always. And so, because of the amazing women that I've been working with, and because of what I've been recognizing in these women and in my own journey, right? These women who have the sensitivity, this depth, are awakening to, again, their own path and their own purpose more and more, and want to trust that inner spark, right? That they want to trust what their heart is guiding them towards, but it feels new, it feels different, right? Um, and again, that sense of meaning, we want to understand, like, and why am I experiencing this? And why, you know, did I take that step? Was it really the best one for me, right? Like, because of this depth of processing, we can take, yes, the courageous step, right? We can follow our heart, follow that passion, that spark that's lit, and move forward. And then there's the reflecting, right? That deep processing that says, oh, but was that the right thing to do? Oh, how is that going to affect them, right? And then sometimes that can really weigh on us. So I just want to speak more clearly to the women that I've been resonating with, who come to work with me. Because if you recognize yourself in any of that I'm sharing, I want you to know that, you're invited to join me tomorrow, Thursday, February 19th at 5 p.m. And I'm offering it again on Thursday, March 5th at 5 p.m. Pacific. It's a moment to pause, a space to inquire, and it's an opportunity to just come together with me to just see if, what I share resonates with you, if, it helps you to, again, connect with your breath and your body and just give you some space to relax. That's my pleasure. I love being able to invite you into that space to just take a break and breathe love. That's the way I like to say it, just to breathe into that space of love, and we need to slow down to do that. So that's why I called it a moment to pause and a space to inquire, so that, again, you can ask any questions, and just be in a space with other sensitive women. And I do additionally work with women one-on-one, and I also offer the Realign Journey, a 3-phase spiral of healing and remembrance. And I just completed the autumn equinox spiral of that, and I am just beyond grateful and blessed to have walked that journey with amazing, sensitive, empathic, strong, intelligent women. And the next one is the spring equinox, so it begins on March 26th. And that's 12 p.m. Pacific on Thursdays, and it meets for 20 sessions. And there's 18 core themes that we go through, covering the mind, the body, and the spirit, because as sensitive and deeply intelligent women, you know, it's transformational journey to walk when we understand ourselves more, when we can come back into alignment with, our own inner guidance. So these are just, again, from my heart to yours, because yeah, it's not the easiest to walk this path. And I just want you to know that there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, right? And I am absolutely honored to remind sensitive and strong women that there is no need to apologize for emotions. There's no need to apologize for who you are. And it really is an honoring, and a way to soften into your own heart, and let go of any judgment or doubt, um, and to just help you to realign with you. So, this seems like a good time for us to pause and, let's connect with the breath and the body now. Let's inhale through the nose, nice and slow and deep, hydrating your body, and then exhale nice and long and slow out your mouth, and just relax, release, let go of any tension that you may be holding. And again, just continue at your pace. Inhaling, just feeling that air moving through your nostrils, feeling that exhale coming out your mouth, nice, slow, long, and feeling your shoulders release some tension, relax down, and just again tuning into you as your breath naturally moves. And, you can explore these offerings that I mentioned on my website, realignwithmelissa.com. There's a links page as well that will kind of just give you shortcuts to find everything as well. But let's, just remember that we are here together to rise up out of old beliefs, old operating systems, old patterns and habits, to rise up into alignment with you and your truth. So we're here together to rise, to reclaim, to remember. Where the heart leads, the body remembers, and the soul awakens. So remember to return to your breath, your body, to what feels true for you right now. There's nothing you need to fix. Just notice what's here. So again, you are invited to join me at any of the offerings. It would be my pleasure to support you. Take good care of you. Much love and light.